discuss when I feel like I have something to say sometimes. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Warrior Junior here, and I hope you guys can. Okay, I guess microphone, you can't hear me a little bit. I don't like to yell. I don't like to. Sometimes they say when you don't talk that loud, you have more to say than if you're yelling, right? I want to talk about how I feel as you get older. I spent a lot of my life going after things. It's just weird when you're young, you're told like, oh, you could be whatever you want to be, like you say like what do you want to be when you grow up, you know, the, and you don't question these things. Nobody tells you when you're a kid, yeah, you can't be. But somewhere along the line, society has a way to put you in a place, to put you into a box, get a job. You grow up. Can't be a kid anymore. Put away those silly dreams and join the rat race of society of life. You ever think about these things, like the rat race, when you see people driving really fast, running, whatever, like just going along, just, yeah. And there's like just a handful of people that control everything, handful of people that are super rich and famous, the top actors and SAG and AFTRA, top producers, they have everything. They get to make the movies they want, the top actors get to choose the roles that they want. And then there's like your middle tier of people that are trying to get up there. And then you got the bottom tier trying to get to the middle tier. Where does it end, right? It's funny because the people like you said, the people at the bottom wish they could be in the middle. The people in the middle wish they could be at the top. And then the people at the top are scared, that they're going to fall down, or they're trying to go even further that there's nowhere to go. There's a cap, like what's the difference if you've got like, so 100 million, now you want to be a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, you want to be a trillionaire. It never ends. It's amazing, that I've been watching like some of these movies, documentaries on like homeless people, in Los Angeles. Like this band, there was a guy in the Temptations that died a couple of years ago, and he was on the street. I performed in front of the Queen. It's true. Doesn't matter. He's fucking homeless. I mean, this could be attributed to other things, but being a performer is, man, depending, chasing any dream that requires any type of either competition or recognition from an audience, it's incredibly difficult. And who you don't know what's going on inside of the mind of the competitor or the performer, like what they went through to get there, even if they became, and I was always fascinated by some of these people, Prince and Michael Jackson, and got to see these people. You know, Prince, I remember there was a small club called the Larchmont, and I had a friend, that got me into dancing a long time ago. And Prince came to see him to maybe sign him to his label. I forgot, but I remember Prince walked in and I was right there, and these people that are extremely powerful, they just literally hold all the cards, and it's like trying to sit at a poker table with a guy that's got four aces. I mean, how you gonna? You're not gonna beat him, unless you get dealt the royal flush. I mean, you're not gonna show these people anything. You can't. They're. It's like playing Monopoly, and they've got all the title deeds before the game's even started, and you're sitting there with nothing. And what can you fucking do? I mean, I watched this documentary called Broke, a pawn shop story, like in Canada. And this guy, like this, he was just complaining, not the owner, but this one guy that was kind of just a lackey hanging out there. I had all these when I was young, this and that, and the white man, fucking complaining. He's a Native American guy. I was abused and this and that, and even the owner said, "Listen, until you stop bitching and let go of the past and focus on the now and the future, you're never gonna move ahead in life." And I get it. I get that. Some of the most successful people, Tyler Perry, like they got through incredibly difficult hardships when they were kids. It's important, but it's not important because they don't harp on that. They were able to, I don't know if the right word is circumvent, but being able to understand what happened to them, but use that as a springboard to not let it define their legacy. Oprah Winfrey, is a great example of somebody that went through incredible hardships when she grew up as a kid, and you know, you just see. But how many of these people are there? I mean, a handful. There's what 7, 8 billion people on the planet, and you got like a handful of people that are world renowned for their you know what they've done, continue to do. It's I think about my own life, and it's like I didn't want to just be stuck in something, because you're gonna change. You're going to get older. And I was like, well, if you put too much into something, that's you kind of got to understand that you might be setting yourself up for extreme disappointment. And that's when the door closes on that part of your life. I mean, a lot of people, it can just be too much. I mean, if you've invested so much into something that you're going to be happy. I hate that word happy. Happy is an emotion. like how you gonna always be happy? So now that you're not happy, then what are you gonna be? You're gonna be miserable? So I don't believe in a happy life, happy. I believe in a content life, but with challenges. You need that. You need to have constant challenges. Things to keep you, like not tested, but it's important. Like as a human being, when people are like, what are you doing now? I don't think I realized, like, when I was in high school, just wanted to play baseball. That was my biggest dream. But what I failed to realize in high school was that it was going to come to an end. I didn't get that, you know. And what happens is like after that, then there's something else, but that's going to come to an end too. I consider myself very fortunate. Dance was a big part of my life. Being a dancer is a tremendous. Uh, I wish I could complete the sentence properly, but it you're giving everything to become proficient at something that is not that big of a deal. Our society tends to reward a few, and it's not linear. Like, there's people that can do things that aren't necessarily that big of a deal, but their popularity and their charisma, overshadows these things. And there's people that are very good at things that are very difficult that aren't necessarily the most bankable or marketable. So you've got that conundrum, that makes no sense. You got things that don't make a lot of sense. And if you're young, you're growing up during this time. So, you I guess a lot of they can struggle with it because the time factor is an important thing. Like, I'm 52, so your time, what's your time? 18 to 25 when you're growing up, so I feel for a lot of young people that, I don't know if their dreams, if it's the same. Everybody's different. I went after a lot of different things, so I don't know if I spread myself too thin, like if I, who's to say, I mean, I've noticed the people that are so great at things, how much they dedicated to things, but everything comes with a price, it's, that price, it can be too great. You know, there's a statistic that says, as you play in all these poker tournaments, you're going to lose at least 85% of the time. You're not going to cash 85%. Can you imagine like doing something, work and whatever, and 85% you don't get nothing, and then maybe you might get something out of the remainder? I mean, I must have went to the gym. I can't even tell you how many times. I have logs of thousands of workouts, thousands upon thousands. And I competed in 10 natural bodybuilding contests. No one cared. It's not nothing. I didn't know what to expect. I don't know, thinking something could lead somewhere. I don't know. How do you know in life unless you try? How do you, how are you able to leave something behind without at least saying you gave it your effort? You put everything forth. And the title of this episode's important because you want to think about like in your life, if you've gone after things, everything, you put yourself out there, you tried, you didn't leave any stone unturned, and some a lot of things just don't work out the way that you think you're going to plan for them to. You're not going to become what you think you are and have what you think you might have. I think about when I'd go out dancing, all the way. I would take the good Lord. There's a club in Claremont. Technically, it's near Pomona, Montclair. That 80s bar, and I would take a bus to a rail, to the Metrolink, to another possible bus, and walk down Indian Hill Road to this fucking place. It only open a couple days out of the week, but I would go there, and I was the quote unquote mascot. Wouldn't get paid or anything, but I performed for free, I guess you would call it. And I just go and do my dancing. Pretty much, I wouldn't, wear I wouldn't dress up like an animal, like a mascot, whatever. But that's what they would call me, the waitress. Waitress is kind of stuck with me when she said, "Yeah, oh, you're our mascot." And I would stay at that place till 2 a.m. and I'd walk 2 a.m. up Indian Hill Road. There's a junction, there's like a Denny's and a Norm's there, freeway entrance, but I don't drive, so sometimes I grab something to eat around 3 in the morning, walk north to Arrow Highway, turn on Arrow Highway, continue to the Metrolink station, but there's a bus that runs 24 hours once an hour at the Montclair Transit Center. And I would stand out there waiting for this Foothill Transit bus at 4 in the morning to go back to Union Station. Union Station to catch the Red Line. About 5:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning now, to get back to Hollywood and Highland. And, this process would take hours going there, dancing for some fist bumps, people, man, you're real good. And here I did this for like years, dancing in general for like 30 years. I made no money. I made nothing. I wrote a dance movie and nobody ever would even look at it. You're not gonna. The reality is that a lot of shit just doesn't happen. You gotta make it happen. It doesn't. Now I'm not trying to sound self-defeatist. I'm not trying to sound like you can never get nothing, it's all a waste. That's not true. But this, I was kind of harboring delusions of grandeur, the hope that, man, okay, like if I could just get a pitch meeting with these powerful fucking people. I'm just so glad that I finally came to the realization that, you know, it's not worth it. That these people that are that powerful already are, you know, and they just need to be ignored. And that everything that I got to do um, is what happens, and that I don't need it anymore. I don't need the validation. I don't need the attention. It's smart to let let it go. Just stop trying so hard. Telling you, man, you could push yourself so fucking hard for nothing sometimes. For what, you know? So, that's kind of like where I'm at right now. And I just wanted to just forget all that. I remember remember how cold, like because I danced for so long and I would go and my shirts would get soaked and I'm wearing a sport coat underneath and I'm like, what am I doing? Oh, it's so great. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not. Because people don't want to hurt your feelings. you could spend so much time and energy in something that's not a big deal. It's not. It really is amazing. Just think about that. Passionate about something. Boy, it's like you could just be setting yourself up for a road to nowhere. And when that road comes to an end, could be like a sidewalk, like where the sidewalk ends, or it could be like a road that just becomes unpaved, you know, continues on, but just to nowhere. It's so amazing, that you could literally just do these things that don't really amount to nothing. I guess it's up to you to decide. If it gives you closure. There's you just can't get it back though. Like it's so short lived. Some things, just, and you can't, you can try to drag things on for a while, but they run their course, man. They just do. Anyway, that's my little talk for now. If you got anything out of this, I appreciate it. But, you know, I don't know. I think you just have to be older to really understand this. When you're young, you're going to get attention, you know? You're going to get that when you're young, not when you get older. You're kindly excused from that, not needed anymore. It's kind of good in a way. It's kind of good. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one.